welcome session or greeting from Dr. Neshba, and then we will have a welcome session by Armando Velazquez, the board president.
I appreciate all the work that has gone into this evening. I know there were a lot of people working together to make this happen, and I know that Lori has been our leader through all of this. I am traveling home from Austin. We have been meeting with our elected officials today, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this tonight. This is an annual event in the Lake Worth ISD. Can somebody let me know if you're getting feedback from this?
We are, Dr. Neshba, getting some feedback.
Okay. That should have helped that. I was hooking it with two devices just as a backup. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. This is an annual event that we look forward to each year. Our SUBE event is our chance to engage our parents. And again, we are as strong as the parents who support us. This is a great opportunity. We have over almost 20 languages spoken in the Lake Worth ISD. And this is a great outreach and a great opportunity to find other ways in which we can support one another and support our families and our children. So again, this is a great event, and we thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neshba. And so now we're going to turn it over to our keynote speaker. Our guest speaker is Mr. Armando Velazquez, and he is the Lake Worth ISD School Board President.
Good evening, Lake Worth Bullfrog families. Can everybody hear me okay?
You're good?
Good, good. I am honored to be here tonight and to speak to those that are in the audience to talk about family involvement in public education. Just to give you a little bit of a brief background on my history in education. I am the firstborn of a couple of immigrants that migrated from Mexico back in my mother migrated back in the late 50s and my father in the early 70s. And their struggles during the course of coming to this country bode benefits for myself and my brother and my sister. The stories that I could tell you about the plight that they took and the efforts that they made to help us in education are very minor compared to others, including those of my spouse and her family and some of the other families at Lake Worth ISD. But what I will tell you is that from my personal experience, family involvement in education was everything and anything that has made me what I am today. And hopefully, what's going to make my children become what they become at the end of their academic journeys. When it comes to family involvement, there are really 4 tenets that I think that are very important. And that's what I wanted to speak to briefly to those that are watching this message now. The number 1 tenet of any kind of family involvement in education has to do with communication. And what I mean by communication is two-way communication between the household itself and then the campus, be it the teacher, the administrator, the school system itself, those that represent the school system, including the administration team and the superintendent. I can tell you that back in the day when I was going to school in the 80s and the early 90s, communication was light. The availability of communication was not as abundant as it is now. However, whatever communication was had definitely went a long way towards ensuring that I was prepared to succeed to the best of my capability within the public education system. Nowadays, with the abundance of social media, with there being phone, email, capabilities of in-person engagement, there is really no reason in my belief that the system should not work for the benefit of the child if the family really wants it to work. And really, to be honest with you, if the student wants it to work. I have seen in my last 13 years of school board service, I've seen many things get into the way of family involvement into a child's education, including work schedules, maybe some silos built up between parents, front office staff, campus administration staff, maybe even the central administration staff. But in all honesty, in the right method of effectiveness, if we all want the same thing, as long as we communicate clearly to each other, we should all get those same benefits. And what I mean by that is a student, displaying a need to an adult when there is a need that should be had. And while I'm on the topic of needs, I want to make it abundantly clear that we're all aware of, from the top down, that this pandemic has brought on the need to address a lot of different needs that are maybe something that the families and the students don't feel that maybe we, from a support standpoint, really are acknowledged of or really care about, but that could be farther from the truth. And that comes from basic sustenance needs from those families and or children that need basic items such as food, shelter, and support services. And then also, of course, those needs that come from filling in those academic gaps, whether it be those students that are afraid because of peer pressure or because of any other type of pressures, those students that feel the need to address gaps, whether it be from basic items such as dyslexia needs or any other type of academic learning needs that, due to the social pressures, students tend not to raise their hand and address the fact that they have a need. So communication is very important in one of those tenets that we all are responsible for in terms of promoting, family involvement for a child's educational benefit. The other thing that I noticed too is that, and this is especially true with our English language learners and those folks that have immigrated to this country, we tend to take public education as a mode of something that is offered, but yet doesn't have any type of additional type of support. And especially for those that come from some of the most impoverished countries, or they come from other countries, that means not being able to raise your hand for fear of being maybe isolated or for being thought of negatively. That's totally different to what I think the public school system has built for the children, especially in the state of Texas. Our public education system is built to meet all of the needs, documented or not, of those children. I guarantee you that every staff member in Lake Worth ISD would be more than willing to help a child with whatever need, whether it was within their lane of support or whether it was within their qualification. And I've seen that especially built up over the last 3 years, to where they're very, dynamic professionals that are dedicated to their purpose in serving children. And that often means, getting children and families to speak up and communicate as to their needs, and to be honest with themselves and to be honest with the school system, so that way we can support them. Another tenet of the family involvement in public education has to do with the parental involvement piece, the presence piece, right? And that has to do with parents being present on campuses, whether it be at school sanctioned events, or sometimes as simple as to, being that last person that greets their child as they leave to go to school, whether it be on a school bus or whether they drop off their children. I can tell you that a lasting impression for a child, and I base this off of my own experience, but also base this off of what I believe with my own children, is that last communication that child has with an adult or with another person as they enter school has a lot to do with the impact of their daily vision as to their educational goals. And if there's a positive engagement that has to do with an adult, or whether it be with a sibling, or whether it be with the caretaker, that goes a long way towards helping that child meet their goals. Positive reinforcement is something that goes a long way. I will be very blunt in that I think 4 to 5 years ago, our school district was very, I would say that if you walked into any classroom, you would see a lot of, I would say adult, for lack of a better words, adults, maybe perhaps being a little bit more harsh towards the children, maybe yelling at kids a little bit more, maybe using some tactics that we don't embrace nowadays. But what I will tell you is that positive reinforcement goes a long way. But positive reinforcement also means that the children, the students of Lake Worth ISD, recognize that if a parent takes the time and the initiative to be at a school event, or to show up during the day, maybe for a lunch or to any other type of event, takes a vested interest in their academic endeavors, it goes a long way towards validating that those students are basically doing something that's worthwhile that the parents validate. That presence on campuses also goes a long way to helping staff feel that they're supported and that they're not the only adults that the children are looking towards on a daily basis to help determine whether there's any type of additional intervention that may be needed. So physical presence on campuses, those touch points, whether it be the end of the beginning of a day, school day, the end of a school day. I also think it's important for adults, families especially, to keep their kids accountable at the end of the school day, determine what has worked, what has not worked, what is pending. It's important for I think our students to know that the parents and the staff are one in terms of their support structure for these students. Oftentimes I do hear stories of students that don't feel that they're supported, whether it be by their family environment or whether it be by their perhaps maybe their teaching environment. But the goal is that if we're all pulling for the same thing, we can all achieve a lot more. So that presence and that involvement goes a long way. The third tenet that I feel that is important when it comes to family involvement in schools is environment. And this one is very key for this very reason. Going back to my experience and my history as a student, I think of myself as being a steward of resources, but also being a byproduct of an environment both at home and at school that allowed me to learn and be a lifelong learner, and also to appreciate the fact that we're lifelong learners. And what I mean by that is, when I was growing up, as much of us that are probably on this, on this Zoom right now may feel, I mean, we had those basic resources. We had an area that we knew there was a safe zone. We had a desk, we had lighting. We were expected to study during certain hours. We were expected to read. We were expected to do many different things to help ensure that our major goal in learning was accomplished. As years have gone by, there's obviously a lot more distractions. Our children nowadays are more prone to being distracted by social media. They're more prone to being distracted by a lot of different vices and other items that are a detriment to their education. And it's really important for the family. And I don't mean just the parents. It's really important for the family, whether it be the siblings, whether it be any adult presence that families have in their homes, to really hone in on the fact that we have children that are very impressionable and children that are basically that are moldable when it comes to their appetite for learning and their formative structure as an adult. And I will take this just to give you a point of reference. When I was a young child, at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, I would hear my father talk about different electrical engineering components from his job as he was getting his electrical license. And when he obtained his electrical license, I was for sure that I was going to become an electrical engineer. Now, truth be told, and this is a story for another time, I failed miserably in getting my electrical engineering degree. And I pivoted from that to get my business degree. But what I do know is that based on my father's excitement over electrical engineering and electrical diagrams, I was for sure there for a good period of my adolescence that I was going to become an electrical engineer. There are so many gifts and talents that we have to share with our kids, whether it be an appreciation for the arts, an appreciation for reading, an appreciation for being educators, or any skilled trade that's out there that we can share with our children. And in all honesty, that is only bred and developed at home. That can be developed and honed in within the school system. And I do know that there have been some educators that have actually placed, that have had a bigger impact on children than perhaps the parents. But that appetite for learning and honing in on developing a constant appetite for honing in on skills, that goes a long way towards developing what will become the future society that takes care of us. It'll be the physicians, the nurses, the lawyers, the attorneys, the financial service representatives, the guys that service the power lines, the guys that work in city services, civil engineering. I mean, I could go on and on about the different trades that are out there. But that all starts at home when it comes to the appreciation that we have for teaching our kids about the different areas of interest that they can develop on. Lastly, what I would say is that the fourth tenet that I think that is most important is engagement. And engagement means ownership. And I want to clarify that engagement is a two-way street. It's different than involvement. Engagement means that there's a two-way street between the adults that serve from the professional capacity, whether it be the educator, the administrator, or those that represent the school district, and the parents in terms of taking a vested interest in any student's development. Engagement doesn't mean that it's a one-way street. It is not solely the school district's responsibility to educate our children. The only way that an effective school system works is if we have parents at home, siblings at home, adults, whether they be cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, that reciprocate that vested interest in our children for the purpose of honing and developing in the skills of our children. Engagement means that when those tough conversations are had, and we've all had them, we all keep the child's best interest at heart. And sometimes that means, as an adult, that means really taking the emotion and the emotional factors out of decision-making and really taking a hard look at what's best, for that child's development. One of the things that I've appreciated about Lake Worth ISD since I've been a student here is that Lake Worth ISD is a very open, welcoming, warming school district for, different types of students, whether they be, students from Latin American countries or from the Asian countries, European countries. I learned today that we have really, representation from upwards of 20 different countries and languages in terms of the student population that we serve. Think about that. That's every single one of those students that we represent, although their needs may be diverse, the appetite and the desire to help those children maximize their potential within our school system should be the same, regardless of what their background is and the needs that they have. And that's one of the things that Lake Worth ISD has offered since I've been a student here that has been the most endearing thing to me as a student, as a parent, and now as a school board member within Lake Worth ISD. Parental involvement goes a long ways towards helping the academic well-being of a student. It's not easy. It is hard. Our lives are now, complicated a lot more than they were just 5 years ago, just a lot more than, 1 year ago. But as our saying goes with our marketing strategy, it's worth it. And in all honesty, we all have to, as adults, we have to dig into those tenets and find out where we can plug in those gaps and play as a team to help every student maximize their development through our school system and as they mature into contributors to our society. So, Lori, with that being said, I don't know if you have anything in the chat room, maybe that any questions or any types of comments that you may be getting from the chat room.
No, sir, we do not have anything in the chat at this time.
Okay, good. Well, just like Dr. Tingle, I'm very wordy, I'm very verbose, and yet I feel that, this period of 20, 25 minutes or so, I've been able to, to explain a little bit about my perception of what family involvement is. Even though there may not be any questions in the chat box, if there's anybody else that is, wanting to ask a question or wanting to bring up a comment for discussion, I'd be more than happy to entertain that at this point. If not, Lori, you have an agenda and you're more than welcome to go on to the next subject matter if you'd like.
Well, we want to thank you very much, Mr. Velazquez, for your time and for volunteering to be our keynote speaker. We appreciate you very much, and for your support, your continued support, and for everything you do for the district, for our students, and for our staff here at Lake Worth ISD. So thank you very, very much for taking part of SUBE this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I promise you next year we'll have music. We'll have. It's just that obviously with the pandemic and with the situation that we're in, things are a little bit different, but we will return to our festive environment, I'm sure,
Yes.
next year and for the year, the next years to follow. So thank you very much, Lori.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if we have any of our family and friends who are ready to attend sessions, we will have 3 sessions from 6:25 to 6:50, and you're able to select the session that works best for you and that you're most interested in. The Google link is also in the chat. There is another way that you can get to these sessions if you would like. You're also able to go to the Lake Worth ISD website, and it's lakeworthisd.org, domain 1499. That will also be put into the chat.
Or lakeworthisd.org / SUBE.
Excellent. So you're able to select one of your sessions by just clicking on the session, and that will take you to the Zoom. Once you're done with your session, please join us again at this main Zoom link. We have a survey for you to take, and we would like to put your names into a prize drawing. So please come back and join us by 6:50, and that will be at this main session. So I will give you some time from 6:25 to 6:50. Those who are hosting sessions, please remember to tell any of your participants to join us again at the main link. Should be able to come back to that main session, kind of the housekeeping session. And
so
if
you
you're a
guys
little bit-
have the second session starting at 6:45.
It shouldn't. I know the time frame looks like it's a little